But today, I'm going to tell you about a story that will, I suspect, have a huge influence on a lot of people around the world who've wanted answers to that big question for many, many years. Are we alone? So tell me about the moment when you realized that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process, over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
Right, hang on a minute. You're flying a helicopter. You've seen a white egg with no means of propulsion. You've seen it from multiple angles. You know it's like nothing you've seen before. You have a chat with the boys about it, and they say, don't worry, it's nothing special. We see them all the time. Keep watching, guys, this gets
increasingly suspicious that what you thinks is that we actually don't have any blooming idea what these objects are, and we don't want to tell the public that because we're fearful of the public reaction.
Do not tell me Trump is days away and he doesn't know what's going on with the drones. Maybe he's just not in a position to tell us what's going on with the drones. But come on, he knows exactly what's going on. The best part of this was when he had the Joe Rogan podcast and Joe Rogan asked him about UFO and identified flying objects in the sky. Has he seen anything? Does he know anything? And he just basically run around the question for the next half an hour. You know, these people are experts at saying a lot, but really saying nothing at all.
And that's what we've been, like I said, that's what we've been seeing since back 22 in July of 22.
Now, one of the things I found interesting was that you speculated in one recent interview I saw with my friend Matt Ford that there's red lights and there's blue lights. Can you explain your theory about the significance of those red and blue lights?
Yes. So recently we had got a paper published. It was on gravitational lensing, and we kind of suspected that something was going on around these objects early on in our research because of the radar anomalies that we've been getting back. That's not just radar; it's GPS. We're having late GPS signals or absence of GPS signals, and with the radar, they seem to be late returns. There's propagation delays, significant propagation delays, and multipath signals. Whenever these objects are within the line of sight of the radome antenna and a reference or an object.
What does that mean? Just explain to a layperson what the significance of that is. You mean the objects are showing mass 1 second and then not showing mass the next?
Yes. So the returns that we're getting back, we're actually looking at that signal chain from the radar dome, and we're looking at two components of it. They call I and Q signals, and from that data, we're able to ascertain that the signals themselves are coming back late. And if they're coming back late, then they're not in the response area of the beam. In other words, the beam itself with our X-band radar, it rotates around 2.5 seconds. It makes one revolution, and is a 5.2 degree beam at a 360 degree sweep. But what happens is the antenna misses the return because it comes back so late that it catches it on the second and third and fourth rotation. So you get this extensive delay, which is looks like an interference pattern on the radar display.
Okay, so what's causing that interference? I've got a funny feeling you're going to tell me it's gravitational lensing, which of course is impossible.
Yes. So that's what we believe it to be: gravitational lensing and what they call anomalous propagation. Now, this is stuff that's been around since the 1920s. Radio engineers have seen this, quite often, and in some cases, the returns come back seconds, and they should be coming back in nanoseconds.
So what can we conclude? Give this layperson who knows absolutely nothing about gravitational lensing, what does it mean in plain English?
Yeah, so what we're describing here, what we're seeing is in the vicinity of an object that has this anomalous presentation. An orb. In one case, we had a drone-like object, but it's within the line of sight of the radar beam. And what we're using now is using a reference. In our case, we're using large ships out at sea. And if they're 15 to 20 miles away, we use that as a reference. We want the beam to hit the ship, come back as a large return. And if it passes within the path of these objects, the beam itself seems to be distorted and interfered. So you have an interference pattern.
Wow! So you're actually seeing that is a gravitational lensing. Wow!
Yeah. So we believe that it's whatever this object is doing, it's causing propagation delays, and it's causing distortion and multipath signals.
Basically, what we see on our radars, we see if the ship's behind the object, say the object's in front of the ship, the return on where the ship is would seem stretched out. The ship would seem elongated because it's delaying the signal. The other thing is we make it multiple copies of those signals too.
Yeah, straight path interference patterns, and this is something that's been also seen on NextRad with the weather radar. Also, they've been seeing these oddities, these odd patterns.
But to come to the nub of what you're saying, gentlemen, the implications are, if your analysis is correct, that something in that object is distorting gravity.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what we believe.
And we also believe that this is what's also causing the kaleidoscope of color around the object. As the object moves, it rotates towards the observer, it blue shifts. And as it rotates away from the observer, it red shifts. And astronomers have known this, of course, for years, studying large, massive, bodies out in space where, you have these gravitational forces that are causing these effects.
Now, gentlemen, the implications of what you're saying here are very dangerous, because what you appear to be suggesting is that these are not prosaic drones of human construction at all, but something that is manufactured from a technology that is highly advanced, which is capable of distorting gravity.
Right, and this is the kind of thing what we don't see around commercial air traffic.
As far as I know, it hasn't been disclosed yet, but I'm waiting to see with bated breath. As far as I know, there hasn't been any disclosure by the US government yet, but we're working on it, about the possession of any anti-gravity technologies. But the implications of what you're saying are that something or someone is playing with anti-gravity, and that might explain at least some or all of the objects that you're seeing out over the ocean.
Right, and this is what we suspect at this point.
It's strong possibility.
And this affects the whole electromagnetic spectrum, whether it's light, it's radio waves, it's heat. So the same can be said with some of these observations that were made by these Navy pilots. Where you have the some of these presentations with these objects where they seem to be running cold on the outskirt of the object itself. And we're kind of wondering whether or not maybe it's not cold. Maybe it's a gravitational lens that is producing something that looks like a cold atmosphere around the object. It might be distorting that heat signature as well as it does to light and radio waves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gentlemen, as I've announced on the head of this program, this week we will be unveiling a story on News Nation which explores the very real possibility that the United States is in possession of retrieved non-human craft. We have first-hand whistleblowers who are testifying that they are aware of these extraordinarily advanced technologies that are in the possession of the US government. Test with evidence such as yours being presented by my two favourite citizen scientists, John and Jerry Tedesco, and their colleague Donna Leonardo. It's going to be a very interesting test for the incoming president, President Trump, to see whether he honours his pledge to tell the public the truth about what's going on with these drones, because he's saying, and they're not letting on what they know. So let's just see what comes out in the next few weeks. John and Jerry, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ross.
So, just to recap there, mate, there's technology in our atmosphere that's bending light and sound around it. Is it saying that it's got some type of field of energy around it, protecting it, keeping the object cool? Listen to this, mate, this next interview.
We went to another part of the facility, went to another building. In that building, we went into an elevator. We took an elevator down, which that was the first odd thing, is that it felt like we went down significantly further than like you would think you would. I mean, it was just awkward. It just stood out.
You went way underground.
I don't know if it was way, but it was further down than like a few floors, you know, so I don't know how far, I don't know how fast the elevator was going. I didn't know I needed to pay attention to it at the time. But I'm observing, you know, I'm kind of, it's starting to feel different, you know. The mood has definitely become more serious, you know. The people we were with seemed serious, and me and the other guy were just being quiet and, you know, not showing any emotion as we're trained to do. So we get under there, door opens, we go through a security type checkpoint. I remember the first thing that stood out to me was that it was significantly more modern than everything up top.
Yep.
And that was odd. The lighting and everything seemed more modern, just seemed more upkept.
Yeah, kind of state of the art.
Mm-hmm. It was very streamlined how things operated down there, so you could tell it was like very regimented. Just like you walk on this, everybody walked on the right side to go down the hall. Like, people coming this way walked on their right. Mm-hmm. It's just, and there was like a line on the wall that you followed to different areas. You know how like the hospitals sometimes have like a line to follow to the emergency room? It was kind of that seemed like it was that. I mean, I wasn't 100% paying attention to that. I was just, had observed it upon getting under there, or getting down there. We moved through a security checkpoint, and then we started looking at some foreign weapons stuff, and they were telling us about some Russian and Chinese weapon systems that were captured. I don't want to go too into the details on this stuff. It's still within too kind of close proximity to that.
Sure.
That I don't want to go too far.
At any point, did you say, "Hey, why are we down here?"
Hell
Or just
no.
kind of, yeah.
And you wouldn't. You know,
Yeah.
you wouldn't. It's not the way things are done. So
Yeah.
you just do. You
Yeah,
know? You
totally.
just, you know, ended up going through another security checkpoint, which that was odd because we'd already gone through a significant level of security, and so I thought that was odd. This was more like going into a skiff, and so yeah, it was that level of security, which is the highest level of security I've seen or dealt with, and so that was strange too, because we'd already gone through a pretty robust security checkpoint to get under there. After that, we moved on down another hallway and got into an area that had a marking on the wall and said off-world technology.
It said off-world technology.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So immediately my bells go off.
Was it engraved, or was it?
No, it was.
Did it look like it was written in marker or something?
No,
or
it was, but it wasn't like it was like permanent. It was like somebody like stuck a placard in, kind of.
Okay.
You know, like, so I don't know. It could have been a setup. It could have been something just thrown together.
Sure.
But it could have been something that's just how they had.
But it said off-world technology.
Yeah, that obviously immediately started to feel yeah. So me and the guy are looking at each other. The other guy that's there, another look, and yeah, that was where the weird. So yeah, we go into the room, and the one room, these significantly higher level of technology, like the lighting even looked, you know, everything was just, it was more, it was just a different vibe, man. I don't know how else to describe it. Like I said, the lighting was different. The walls had like maybe I would assume some type of Faraday material. Like everything was just a higher level of detail. You know? The first object was a metallic basketball-sized sphere, and it was above a podium, and looked like it was just levitating above the podium.
Levitating above the podium. Mm-hmm. So there was space between the sphere and the podium itself.
Correct. And I remember at one point, like, trying to angle myself, like, what? How is that?
Do you think it could have been some sort of magnetic levitation? Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's just levitating there.
It was just levitating.
Did it look like a prosaic, like this wood table where if you were to, touch it, it would act like a normal object? Did it look holographic? What did it look like? That's a good question. What stood out to me was the way the metal looked. It looked unnatural. And I talked with Gerb about this, and he kind of dug in on this. I mean, I'm like, dude, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah. All I can tell you is it didn't look natural. Moment, right? It didn't look like anything I could compare it to. Interesting.
Yeah.
Looked unnatural. How can the metal look unnatural? That is what blows my mind. The metal looked unnatural. What are we picturing here? We know that there's magnetic energies that repel. This object could have been like a polished marble looking bowling ball, magnetically floating. It is possible to do, we know that. Stephen Greer has said for years that an alien attack is going to be faked on the world to gain full control and make us rely on their safety. So is this part of that? Is it just a big hoax? Why would they take this guy into this room? What's the need to know? Why do you need to know about this object X amount of floors underground? What's the purpose? This guy's going to work on it and find out something new about it. It's like they've just shown him the alien technology. But when you listen to Bob Lazar talk, he talks about a need to know. If you didn't need to know, you weren't working on that part of the project. What is this guy's need to know? Why has he been taken down there and shown this off-world technology? That's the only thing that flags up for me, guys. Why? Why are they showing him?
Undoubtedly, that is a fascinating story, and Randy Anderson seems very believable. He's very open to Jesse Michaels, and no, I believe he saw something. But I've got two close contacts who regularly advise me, who also had seen the Jesse Michaels video, and they have very interesting and slightly divergent opinions about what really might have happened. Firstly, a very fascinating and confirmative story from a defense contractor scientist I know, who's currently in the Far East. Interview said, it's uncanny. He was also taken in an elevator to an underground lab. He went through an initial security check into a facility with lines along the corridor, like a hospital, just as the interview in Jesse Michaels' show said. Then he also said he went through a second high security checkpoint, but he said he was warned of the use of possible deadly force if he and his colleague strayed off course. And then they went down a high-tech corridor, similar to the interview that you've just heard, into an unmarked laboratory where he saw a floating silver orb. The silver orb that he saw was in a darkened room. It wasn't on a plinth. It was way at the back of the room. And he described it as spherical, hovering, and it seemed to be emitting some kind of light, as if it was floating in a puddle of luminous light or water. His contact told him, this is our UAP. What do you think about it? My contact said he was amazed to see it, and it sounds very similar, and was asked to approach it. When he walked towards it, he found himself back at the starting point. His colleague said, what do you think of the UFO? He said, I can't go near it. He said, that's very strange. A lot of people feel like that. It seems to react to different people in different ways. I think that's an amazingly similar description of a very similar facility. Underground, dual security checkpoints, and a spherical orb which seems to react to human contact. So we all saw the video at roughly the same time, and he contacted me and said, "Sounds like the same place, Simon." I went, "Oh, that's very interesting." And then out of the blue, I was contacted by somebody completely different with a slightly different take on the whole story. We have a family friend who deals with security clearances and actually vetting people. He said that the Randy Anderson story sounds very much like a vetting procedure. If you listen to the Jesse Michaels Long Show, Randy Anderson also tells the story of how he was sent on a run. But when he was on the run, he noticed on trees there were numbers and faces pinned to the wood. And when he came back, he was quizzed about what he saw. He thought he was going on a run. It was obviously a test of various candidates to see who was the most observant. And this is the really interesting thing my contact said about this person's exposure to alien technology. It could exist. He's not questioning that. He asked this really interesting question. Why was Randy Anderson and the other Navy Green Beret actually showing the technology? I mean, they're not physicists, they're not scientists. There's no real advantage for them to know that that technology exists. It wasn't part of their daily procedure. What he thinks was really going on, and this kind of makes a lot of sense to me, is that the two Navy Green Berets were being checked out to see how they reacted when they were shown something weird. The two handlers who were there with them were really assessing how these two soldiers reacted to what could be genuine alien technology. Later on in Jesse Michaels' interview, the Navy guy, Randy, says that it kind of shook him. He felt very upset and it questioned his faith. Now, that could be something that they wanted to weed out. Somebody who would be deeply upset by meeting an extraterrestrial or seeing some very odd technology, which might phase the commando so he can't do his job properly. Maybe they were exposing him to genuine weird stuff. It sounds like it is genuine to me, to see how he reacted. But whatever the big picture that really happened at Camp Crane Support Activity Center,
let's take a little recap there.
Interesting.
So one of the officers steps forward a couple of yards to get a closer look and finds that the object has maintained distance. That's insane, right? Now, why are they down there? They said then they wanted to see the reaction. Are we coming close to disclosure? Are they doing tests on normal soldiers? Bringing them down, showing them a bit more, seeing how they react? Why would aliens visiting Earth question your... It's quite arrogant to think that we are the only living intelligent life form.
I had the opportunity over the years to interview, again, people who have worked at the test site at Groom Lake. One gentleman spent 12 of his 30 years in black programs at Groom Lake. When I asked him, I said, first of all, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he looked at me with a straight face in one-on-one. He said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, can you expand upon that? And he said, no, I can't. About a year later, we were talking about, again, activities at Groom Lake. And I asked him, I said, you know, can you really tell me what's happening out there? And he said, well, there's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025. But we have things in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious.
that, guys. It's literally just like hovering in that spot. It's huge. That, guys. It's literally just like hovering in that spot. It's huge.
It was spinning. Anything that got in its way, it would be harmed. Or so it spun out into the open on a road, and there was two vehicles there, and an armored vehicle, they call it that M706, that the QRT came in. Well, the driver of the QRT then decided to ram the creature, or the humanoid. So he accelerated and ran right into it, knocking it over, rolling over it. And then this thing moved all the way out to the perimeter fences, back into the UFO, which was parked out there. As they turned around, there was two more humanoids going in that bunker. Now they got three of these things.
Similar to that one, exactly like that one, or different?
No, exactly like that.
Hang on a minute. That's hard to take in. So this humanoid, metal-looking alien has like been spinning out of control, maybe to keep anything away from it, to try and make its way back to the alien craft. Right now we're clicking over to Casper's site. He's going to break down and slow down this orb teleporting from one spot to another. Check this out, guys.
Of the webcam, okay? Here we go. Watch this. You have to be super, because it is only literally 2 or 3 frames. Here we go. I think we're starting to see it form here. It gets better, okay? Buckle up. Next frame. Bang. You know, reflecting, because this isn't moving now, right? This looks like another one of these. Look at this.
En el aire, mira para eso, tú.
Wait, it will zoom out in a minute. Look at that! Look at it! What are we actually seeing here? What are we seeing here, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know, Ben. Look at this! Isn't that amazing? But wait, that video was, I don't know, was it in Portugal or something like that? I don't know. But this video that I saw today, UFO over Pevensey, East Sussex, 29th of June 2013. This was 11 years ago. Just...
Good. What are you talking about there?